Yaroslav has a PhD and is a marketing and customer acquisition professional with 10 plus years experience in product marketing. Now he works for MacPaw, one of the most successful Mac software developers, on a product called SetApp.
All right. Can you guys hear me okay? Cool. So thank you for coming. My name is Yaroslav. I'm a product marketing manager at a company called MacPaw. We are Mac developers, iOS developers, and we even have products for PC. And today we are talking about Mac developer survey results. This is an annual initiative that we've been doing 3 years in a row. We send it to Mac developers, and the way it works, we ask the same questions to keep the survey consistent and check how the market is changing year over year. And we also add new questions every year about the newest trends on the market, just to monitor those as well. And the agenda for today's Mac developer survey results is the following: choosing the marketplace, selling apps via the Mac App Store, outside of the Mac App Store, via SetApp as a distribution channel, subscription model, pretty hot topic. A lot of conversations were happening at this AltConf. macOS and iOS merger, which was said no to by Craig Federighi on the stage a couple of days ago. So we have some data about developers' opinion about this move. Live beyond macOS. We'll take a look at what other Apple operating systems Mac developers work with, and even live beyond Windows. Oh, even live beyond Apple. Sorry about that. I should have said Windows, not that loud, right? Yeah. So let's go. Choosing the marketplace. What marketplace are developers choosing this year? As we can see, in 2018, slightly fewer developers chose Mac App Store exclusively, down to 22%, with more looking outside of the Mac App Store, and slightly more picking both options. Revenue proportion, where do they make money? So Mac App Store accounted for smaller percentages of the revenue, down to 44 from 41%. So developers are still making more money outside of the Mac App Store. And another thing we wanted to know was the awareness for SetApp. This is pretty new app distribution channel, which was released in January last year. So we wanted to ask if they are aware of it. And it seems like that it can be seen from these dashboards. It's pretty much the same data across all three channels. So they are more or less equally aware of SetApp. Mac, outside of the Mac App Store, outside of the Mac App Store, and both. And traditionally, what we do third year in a row, we ask what developers think of the Mac App Store. We're getting their opinion, and this year, on top of this, we also added a question what they think of SetApp as a distribution channel. And to do so, we employ a Net Promoter Score to measure their satisfaction about the channel. Do you guys know how it works, how Net Promoter Score works, right? So the way it works, you ask the question, how likely is that you would recommend Mac App Store or SetApp, in our case, to a friend or colleague, on a 10-point scale. And those who give you 6 or less are detractors. Those who give you 7 and 8 are passives. And 9 and 10 are promoters. And the formula is the following. So by subtracting percentage of detractors from percentage of promoters, you get the Net Promoter Score. And it can be as low as minus 100, which means like everybody hates you. And it can be as high as 100, when everyone is a promoter. And before I show the data about the Mac App Store and SetApp, a couple of examples for the famous brands. So Tesla, 97, which means like everyone loves Tesla, right? And I have never met Tesla owner who would not be satisfied with such a fancy car. Disney, 50, 3M46. Now, Mac App Store developers about Mac App Store. You ready? So it's getting better this year. So it's minus 19, which is a negative indicator. But if you check the last year, it was even minus 34. So we can make a conclusion that Apple is doing some job to build better relationship because it's still improving, right? It's still negative, but it can be interpreted like they dislike it less this year, right? And when compared to setup, still also negative, with setup scoring minus 22. So they dislike setup even more than they do with the Mac App Store. So another segment, non-Mac App Store developers, here is their opinion about the channel. You know what? Last year, we were like, what the hell is going on? I had to recalculate the number because I didn't really believe it was minus 97, super negative thing. But this year, it's much better. Again, it's still negative, right? It's still below 0. It means like it's hated. But anyways, like bravo Apple, those who are not in your camp hate you less this year, right? That's what can be said. And we've compared this segment with setup, and what we saw here was that this segment can be defined as setup promoters. So they work outside of the Mac App Store, and they kind of trust setup much, much more because 17 is not 97 like with Tesla, not 50 like with Disney, but it's still above 0, right? That's already a positive indicator. And now a couple of words about those who distribute, those who choose both options on the Mac App Store and outside of it. And we can see that this year they are more loyal to the Mac App Store. Again, moving from negative to less negative, meaning they dislike it less, but still, in all three segments, we've seen improvements in their opinion about the channel. And for setup, again, 7, right? Not a lot, but not a minus. We cannot see the minus with the 7, so it tells us that those who pick both channels have a positive attitude for setup. Now, a couple of words, not couple of words, but a drill down to each of the channels deeper, and starting with the Mac App Store. So here is what the situation looks like. We always, every year, we ask them if the perks given by the Mac App Store are worth 30% revenue share. And this year, 51% said yes, which is again telling us that Apple is building a better relationship with them this year because they are more likely to say yes for the revenue share question. It was 31 last year. We also found that Mac App Store developers consider setup because out of those who work with Mac App Store exclusively, right, this is the only channel they use, 72% consider setup as a distribution channel. And here is why. So they consider it because they believe it can help them grow user base, get additional revenue, and switch to subscription, which introduces the recurring revenue model for them. And this is actually the promise that setup gives to developers. Why they are not considering, they also explained why those 29% do not consider. So we found out that they have no plans to switch to subscription, which is okay. And new channel is always risk for our products. That's what we said. And I personally hate this answer because, like, if there is a risk, you still should try if you're looking for more opportunities. And other options, like they say, it's hard to adopt the product for setup business model, or they are not fine with the model. The next segment, selling outside of the Mac App Store. So we surveyed those who never stepped their foot on the Mac App Store grounds as well. And year over year, the situation with the question, have you tried distributing apps via Mac App Store? remains relatively the same. So they try, they come back, and here are the reasons why. And it's really cool slide because we all know how much effort Apple put to review process, right? This is something that we see being improved year over year, but it still tops the list, right? This is still number one reason why they do not work with Mac App Store. 30% revenue share holds the second place, which is pretty understood. No one wants to share the hard-earned revenue. And if you take a look at number 5, no ability to respond to client reviews, I was actually really surprised when I saw this option, because Apple did fix that. That it was really relevant for the last year survey, but it was fixed this year, and it should not be in this report. So those who work outside of the Mac App Store, they don't even know what's up there, right? So they still think that this is that you cannot respond to clients' reviews. And another thing, so since these folks do not have all the tools, I mean, by these folks, I mean those who work outside of the Mac App Store, they have to find or create their own. And this year, developers keep spending more time on wheel invention, and more of them tend to outsource the tools. So, and what we asked them, what are the top tools that you are using? And we've seen an interesting trend here. So last year, DevMate was number 1, Paddle was number 2. This year, DevMate is losing the first place to Paddle. And number 3 is Hockey App, which was not even in top 5 last year. So top 3 are Paddle, DevMate, and Hockey App. Then we see Sparkle. FastSpring went down to the 5th position, while it was number 3 last year. What we also found that in this segment, 21% already partnered with SetApp to distribute their applications. Like every 5th working outside of the Mac App Store we surveyed tried SetApp as a distribution channel. And here is why. So the conversation actually is all about money, right? Get additional revenue stream, grow user base, switch to subscription and recurring revenue model. So the top reasons are all about money. And we also asked what were the reasons why they were not partnering with SetApp yet. And half of them said SetApp declined my apps because there is a strict review in this channel. Not everyone is allowed to get in. And that's actually what differentiates it from the Mac App Store. So on SetApp, there are just 100+ applications on the Mac App Store. There are thousands of them. And like I said, half of them said that SetApp declined their applications, and the rest of the reasons are about modal and not being fit. So the third segment, those who work in both Mac App Store and outside of it, and it's really cool, twice as much, it was 20% in the previous segment, in this segment twice as much, put their applications to SetApp. So this is, we may assume that this is more active audience trying new channels. And here is why. 94% is the reason about money, right? So these guys are looking for more channels, more revenue, more opportunities. Other reasons like growing user base, increasing customer lifetime, lowering client acquisition costs, but 94%, like they tell us, we want more money, right? And the reason why this segment is not partnering with SetApp, again, number one reason is SetApp declined their applications, and the rest of them are about different model, hardness of adoption of application to the channel. Are you guys tired of dashboards? No? I do have more data. All right, and the next slides will be all about money. So we know that there is a segment who wants to make money. There is a segment who is looking for more opportunities, trying different channels. And it's interesting that they do try subscription, right? So subscription is pretty hot topic that is being tried by developers, that is being discussed a lot. And second year in a row, we are asking these questions to understand what the market looks like and what the challenges are. So in terms of general market division, and I would name like these segments, old way and subscription. So those who tried subscription, we internally, while analyzing this data, we internally named them Bravehearts because they are more open to new stuff. So, and we identify that second year in a row, every fifth is a Braveheart, right? 20% of Mac developers we talk to tried subscription model. And what we see that this year, more developers said subscription has a positive impact, 52% versus 57% last year. And a huge portion of the audience is not sure yet about the impact, which means they're still thinking, still evaluating. Now let's dive deeper into what's up with this direction, into what's up with subscription as a model. What's good about it? Money. Again, money, money, money. It's all about revenue. This year, even more developers voted for this, which means they get what they expected to get. What's wrong with the subscription? We have found it doesn't work very well for everyone, obviously, right? And more developers said they've got worse relationship with users, 57%, and revenue decreased. And maybe for this, it wasn't the right switch to switch to subscription. So hardship of building a new life, like everyone knows or senses, like there are a lot of challenges attached to it. And challenges in switching to subscription model are the following. Defining the right pricing, because, and we know it ourselves, it's really tough to define what is the amount a user would be willing to pay monthly, right? Because there are so many subscriptions nowadays, and people pay for lots of services, and you really have to be careful with the pricing definition. But take a look at the second. It's a really cool thing because explaining the value to users is much, much easier for developers this year. Some of them are complaining about not enough resources. So, but again, this is pretty subjective thing. When I'm hearing not enough resources, I take it as excuse, and I would encourage those people who did not try something because of lack of resources, take a look at the priorities and then define the next steps. All right, a couple of words about why developers decided not to try subscription. And a third part is happy with what they have now. And it's pretty weird to hear because it means like people are fine with status quo, right? There are no intentions to move forward. And other responses all the way down are all about not being sure, about risks, and again about lack of resources to try the new model. So another question we asked, and which is really, really important as the summary of the subscription conversation, is whether they would recommend a new model, because some of them may try and they can be happy, can be not really happy, but at the end of the day, it's all about the recommendation. And those who chose subscription, so slightly less would recommend subscription this year, we can see, and more are not sure yet. But anyways, we seem like it's still working very well for the majority of respondents this year. And those who tried subscription and stopped, those who stick with the old way, their skepticism is going up, but uncertainty is going down. So, and those who never tried a subscription, we also ask this question, and it's interesting because half of them, and those who never tried it, right, but still half of them would still recommend it, and it's really, really positive sign. Okay, yes or no? Kind of, right? But here is the most interesting part. Ready? Let's go. So Craig Federighi said they are not going to merge the operating systems. But when we were doing this survey, this has not been announced yet. And there were a lot of buzz in media about the Apple's intention to merge the operating system. So, and we asked them, do you guys think this idea makes sense? So, and although this is not going to happen, it's now official, 37% said yes, and 26% said that it would have a positive impact on their business. So I don't know how to share this data with Apple, but they obviously should know about this. Couple of slides about the Live Beyond Mac OS. So again, the respondents were Mac developers, and we wanted to know if they work with other Apple operating systems or just building applications for Mac. And as you can see, 63% of Mac developers build products for other Apple operating systems. And here is where their focus is. So it's iOS, #1. It tops the list with 93%. And then watchOS, and only then tvOS with 21%. And we also asked, like, why do you develop from multiple Apple operating systems? Because there might be several reasons with it. And we want to deliver the same product to different devices. That was an answer with 33%. We develop different products for different platforms, 25. And I love these guys because it means they are not lazy. They are building more products for different platforms. And 34% said a combination of both. So they have products for different platforms, so they have different products for different platforms. And in some insights about those 37% who develop for Mac only, like Mac lovers, we asked, would you consider distributing apps for Apple operating systems other than Mac OS? And 52% said yes. 23 are still thinking, and there is a segment that has just no, Mac only. That's their focus. And those who would consider, so they do not develop, but they still would consider other operating system, this is where their focus would be, right? iOS 96%, watchOS 19%, and tvOS also 19%. Those who do not consider or are not sure about it yet, again, this is an answer to the question, why are you not considering applications? Isn't it weird? Like, no desire? 67%. And again, we'd love to talk to those people and to share our results working with different platforms so that they have the desire, right? So that they find the resources to build a business. All right, that's all about this segment. Another thing, Live Beyond Apple. And that's the slide where I have to say Windows. Not that loud, right? Especially with this audience. So, and by the way, this is last portion of the dashboards, so be patient. They are cool, right? You are about to see how Apple lovers make money with Windows and Android. So, for me as an Apple fan, it was really interesting to see how diverse a portfolio of Mac developers we have, and with 46% creating apps for other platforms. So 46% of Mac developers make money outside of Apple ecosystem with Windows. Okay, and we asked which operating systems do these developers create apps for? And Windows tops the list with 69%. Then we have second place for Android, and then Linux. But it's all about money, right? At the end of the day, it's all about money. So we asked them, where do you get more revenue from? Either Apple or non-Apple operating system. And 63% make more money in Apple environment, right? So they still play with Windows and Android and other operating systems, but the money they are getting is the majority of money is being earned with Apple. A couple of insights about those 54% who do not make money in Apple ecosystem. So to the question, would you consider developing products for non-Apple operating system like Android and Windows? 42 of developers loyal to Apple consider going to other camp as well. And here's what they said. So here, Android is number one, Windows is the second, and Linux is the third. And those 58 who do not or would not consider, again, no desire, number one. This is kind of a trend we've seen in all the report. Like if they do not consider something, if they consider, they give a clear answer what is being considered. If they do not, for some reason, this audience had no desire as a number one reason to not doing things. Again, lack of resources, it pretty much always has the second place. Or lack of expertise, those like pretty much in the same position. All right, what is the honest answer for now? Are you tired of dashboards? Yeah, but that's it. All right, that's it. If you guys have any questions, I'm here to answer.
One of the earlier slides, I don't remember which one, but there was a distinct drop between 2017 and 2018 on the on lack of resources specifically. I can't remember which one it was, but it dropped from like 20 something down to 18%. Do you guys know like any reason for the sudden, or any speculation as to why suddenly people seem to have more resources in 2018? I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly which slide it was.
The quick assumption would be they've hired enough people and they do business and moving from startups to decent companies. But in reality, we don't know. We did not really dive that deeper, aiming to understand why.
You mentioned some of the toolkits, Paddle and so on, for revenue. Are there any toolkits out there for any of those ones that do this subscription model? And also, I hadn't heard of this set thing. Are you affiliated with that company, or is it just some? I hadn't heard of it before.
Yeah, that's the product that is developed by the company I work for. Yeah, and speaking about the tools, you haven't seen those that manage subscriptions, right? That's what you said. Yeah. So Paddle does it, I think. So Paddle helps developers manage the subscription model and sell via subscription.
Only Paddle?
We can go back to the list, but I don't think there in the top. I don't think there is other tool that helps with it.
For the reasons not to use a Mac App Store, I didn't see sandboxing restrictions on that list. Was that a option in the survey?
It was an option. That's a really good catch. So last year, it was number one or number two. It was really, really on the top. For some reason, the same audience did not mention it this year. So we don't know why. Is it like attitude change to this? They're just getting used to it and not even trying to do so. But it was like even if I'm not mistaken, 2 years in a row, that was like one of the top reasons. But this year, it's not even in.
And then follow up, have you heard anything about the reason that some of these companies are coming back to the Mac App Store this year, as announced in the WWDC?
Well, that's a good question for the next survey, I think.
Okay. And if anyone else knows about sandboxing changes this year, I'd be interested in hearing.
This one doesn't have, it's not specifically to do with your presentation, but there was a lot of talk after they unveiled the new Mac App Store, like the look of it, I saw a number of people say, like, hey, this looks like a copy of SetApp. Now, from somebody on the inside, what's your feeling on that? Or, like, what are the coworkers' feelings on that?
Well, that's the moment when you have to say, good question, right? So when we saw that and we were at the keynote and we were sitting, myself, the product manager of SetApp and the CEO of the company, and they do know what the SetApp looks like, right? And we had the mock-ups of the next version being discussed a couple of hours before the keynote, and they were black. And we saw this thing, and we were like, okay, so the bad news, they have something similar to what we have. The good news is that we're probably doing the right thing, because to tell you the truth, even user image was placed exactly in the same place. So we opened the mock-up immediately, like, check this out. And that's basically a positive indicator. In answering your question about what our coworkers think, well, everyone's happy because we're doing what Apple's doing. We are on the right track. And the first thing we did, we just tweeted like, hey, check this out. We were the first. All right?
I have a couple of
Yeah,
questions,
sure.
if I may. So one is, you mentioned that you're surveying more or less the same people for 3 years in a row now.
Yeah.
So I appreciate how that's sort of good to keep things consistent, but I'm wondering if there are any people either dropping out of the market or coming onto the market that might offer a different perspective. And my second question is, if you were to drop the people who were rejected from SetApp from your positive score calculation, how does it change?
So the first question, we survey the same group of people to keep it consistent, right? Obviously, so this year it was 800 plus. Last year it was 700 something. So we might have lost someone in the survey who answered last year, and someone showed up to the market and added the responses. But it's about the consistency of numbers, not just the people, right? So to keep it statistically significant, the numbers has to be relatively the same. If someone is answering and someone's not year over year, that's still fine. And I didn't get like the second question. If we kicked someone out, we have to.
So you were I forget the abbreviation. You were calculating the net positive.
Net promoter score.
Yeah. So and also among these developers, there's some number who wanted to join SetApp but
Yeah.
were rejected. So if you get them out of the survey, does the NPS go up?
Well, that's a good idea to recheck. Probably yes. But again, we still can see the respondents being smart and responsible people giving honest answers. Okay, any more questions? Nope? All right, thank you.